Hey everybody, I wanted to talk to you tonight, I should say, about a discovery, research I was coming across today. And when I've demonstrated before, and then over the years I've used small stones as billets, with, trying to think of things that people had a long time ago that could have been used in another manner that didn't take up, because they're having to carry everything with you unless you stash it, and which people definitely did. But and so coming up with the concept of having a hand pad and wrapping it around for small billets, small stones for uses as billets like this. And I've demonstrated in the past, and trying to pass on some of my knowledge to some people, and share some things that people haven't seen before. So placing this in this manner, using it as a billet, you can see the end use on the end here of different size stones. You can use it on flat stones, making tools with stone, using it in direct percussion, and then looking at old tools like these punches that have. Here's one that I've had for a long time. It's whittled down quite a bit. And what I noticed is using this tool in this manner, trying to replicate use of small punches that keep showing up in the archaeological record. And one might think, well, they were just used up and then they were disposed of. But that isn't the case for as many as have been popping up everywhere. It appeared that they were for well-intended purposes, small to begin with, and uniform. People were making them in approximately the same sizes. They would vary in sizes, but they seemed to be some consistency. So I was looking at the end of, this was an example of some in use of a little fracture of the last time that this tool was used. I was using it for indirect percussion, and if you're coming in contact with a sharp surface, like with antler, and it's pointed, it's a tip, it's a lot of times it's just going to chip off it'll have a cut that will cut it across. And so I found that a rounded edge is more effective, but also not in the manner I use it, which led in turn to me coming up with the angle on what I call the reverse channel anvil. And so you have an anvil that's at an angle, it has a channel that runs down it, and your spall or biface or whatever is on that, hanging over where there's a wedge cut leading into the channel. You can put your hand on the back like this to support it, to keep it from sliding down and hold it into place. Then you're able to take, and at the time I was using wooden and antler billets that I grew accustomed to using, so it was a longer billets that I would hold like this and pull this edge onto the platform, pulling back into it and then striking down, and then the flake would go down this way, which I was finding was consistent with the smaller punches. So in utilizing the same principle that I was using with the pad, pulling it towards and hitting down, I was achieving that. But I was also seeing something different on some of those cylinders and punches and drifts, whatever they call them. I was also seeing some that had no use on one end, use on both ends, and it was inconsistent, it seemed, because with one having use on one end, the other end seemingly to be the contact end, but it not having any use. I started thinking, there must be something else to it. So what I stumbled across today, when I first came up with the thought of putting the pieces in the grave together into what was called the antler, the arrow shaft wrench or whatever, and now I'm questioning as to whether some of the discodials even were used in the same manner, because it has an effect, a dampening effect on also the blow, the physics involved. The way that this is working out for me, there's a great loss in shock. It's just fantastic. I mean, I'm hooked. This is a method I'm going to become known in the future for producing some fantastic points. So what I was doing was, when I first came up with this, I was making some of the inserts out of antler. Actually, this other one here is one of the first ones I was testing on, and I had a piece of wood, and actually this was the first test that I did was with wood. Try to find the piece. And what I had laying around, I don't know what happened to it now. Oh, it's sitting in here. And my buddy Ken Bob had made me an Ishi stick a long time ago, but it was too long. Okay, so a long time ago, and I had put antler, drilled it out a long time ago to, instead of using copper, I use antler, and so I widened it out, would put antler inserts as a piece of buffalo, but it was too long, so I cut it off. So I had this piece that was sticking out, and I believe it's ironwood or mesquite, and so I had that piece that was a little bit longer that was on the end of it hanging around, and I created one of these to stick inside the antler. And actually, first I was using the pivot in like this and holding it like this, pressing and popping flakes with the wood and tapping, and I found that it was effective. When I got to working, demonstrating it with and experimenting with flints, it did chew it up a little bit more, but it was still holding up quite well, which I'm going to demonstrate here in a few minutes. So what I'm leading to is I kept thinking about wood. That wood is effective. You can use it for flints. It works best on obsidian, but I was using it on flint. So I thought, well, I'll try some different wood. So I went to the wood place and I got some cherry wood. I have some other kinds of woods that I tried. I really want to get some more dogwood to make some small pieces because I like the elasticity of dogwood. And so the cherry I was experimenting around with wasn't as effective on the flint. So I was thinking about different woods in different places. So today I was at the Harvard's Peabody Museum. Okay, and I'm looking in their record, in their art gallery in there, and I'm searching through their wood collection, and lo and behold, I'm finding pieces that were resembling what I've been using, and found one that I posted on my Facebook page that some of you will see, and it strongly, except the end wasn't wedged. I have one that's pointed, one that's a wedge shape on the end, but it strongly resembled this, and it was just about the same size. but the head was fractured and it was wood. So then I see another piece in there that was as if it was this, it was like this piece right here, fractured across here, and this other part missing. And I seen that fracture, and what had happened before in using antler, I was using antler on some bigger pieces of flint. When you're working with harder material, I found that you're going to use, this is what I usually use right here, this other tool that I use that's also an insert tool, and I tap it with this and it's effective. But when you get into harder untreated flints, you need a little bit harder of a hit, and so I was using this on the antler piece. Now the antler that I was making my initial tools out of, my insert devices, was a bit fractured, and you can see that it by no standards was fresh antler. So I was trying to use it because I'm finding these smaller tools, you can actually generate some decent sized flakes in the method that is being used. So I used my old billet, this is my old moose billet that I had that I haven't been using, and I gave it a whack, and bam, it fractured, broke across there. Now there's two places that you're going to be striking your insert. One is at the head for like stitching or things like that. You're trying to break that real shallow, deep, bulbous flake right at the head. And then the other one is to the back. So when I'm looking in the record today and I'm looking at this wood on the eastern part of Arizona in burials, and it's just, I took pictures of my tool, took pictures of the one that was fractured across the head, put down the centimeter scale, put down, and I'm just convinced. So I want to show you, this is some flint here, and wherever I put it, I had a piece here. It's non-cooked, it's some English flint, and I think I've already demonstrated it once before on another thing, but putting my hand across here, my thumb across here, pushing in against here, pressing, and pow. Now let's see if I can catch one of these flakes, because it's so fast you don't see it, but you can see the flaking that the wood, try to catch it, it wound up going into a few pieces here, but you can see how thin and long of a flakes it drives. Now I'll switch over to the cherry, which you can see how, now look at this, hardly touched the I can't remember if it was ironwood or mesquite. This is the cherry that I was using earlier. Really tore it up. So, and I'll demonstrate that here. Put it on the cherry. Same thing. So just night and day. So the type of wood makes a difference. So folks, we're on to something here.